Freedom. Freedom is a very broad term, and I think we actually forget that that's the main thing that we're after. You see, a lot of things equate to freedom. There's a lot of tools and resources and objectives that come into place on the path to freedom. And I think a lot of times we actually mistake what freedom looks like. We're always looking at other people in the media and society on what freedom should look like. We don't know what it is for us. But the thing about freedom is that it's not just something that falls into your lap. Freedom is actually something that you discover through a lot of internal examination. You see, the first misconception is that freedom occurs when you have a lot of money and that's it, like a lot of us think it is. Because that can actually just be a jail cell with golden bars, or the famous quote, golden handcuffs. I think freedom is to self-operate in the self-built confines of your own being. Now that sounds like I'm just spouting out random words here, but let me get into that. You see, when you do that reflection and you understand yourself to an ideal capacity, you actually become like a sponge. You become like a child. You just absorb everything around you because you're basically, it's not that you have no thoughts in your head that's going on, but you're basically open. Your channels are open to receiving whatever information and experiences that you want to seek for yourself. And with this, as the famous philosopher said, I'm not sure who, discipline is freedom. Once you've done that introspection, you develop an inner world. And once you apply systems, routines, structures, and the proper development in your self-operated world, well, now you have the capabilities to function in the real world, and you know which detours to take. You see, I think everyone thinks that freedom is basically the ability to just do whatever you want and go wherever you want and just, essentially have, I don't want to say no bounds and limitations, because obviously there's always a limit to something. There's always, it's not like you can fly and just do whatever you want all the time and everything's gonna go okay. Like there's always a pendulum swing. But I think freedom is actually when you self-impose limits, but you also give yourself like some sort of sandbox to operate in. It's kind of like music. I don't know if you guys ever produce music, but I'm basically a music producer. It's what I tried to do for the past couple years to make it a career. And the one thing about making music is that you have notes, chords, and you also have scales that you must operate in. So for example, if you play something like C minor, normally you're gonna have certain notes and keys which are going to sound congruent to what's in that scale. You're gonna have certain keys and certain notes that are going to sound in tune with that scale. Because if you play a different key, if you operate out of that sandbox, well, the problem is you're gonna completely go off the rails. And this can also be applied to the real world. Like if you just impose complete freedom on yourself, well, now you're probably gonna end up being hedonistic, or you might just seek pleasure all the time and have no sense of building. You're gonna have nothing to contribute to the world and to yourself. You're just gonna go astray. But I think that discipline is true freedom because it's not only giving you, arenas to play in, but it's also giving you the blueprints on where to go in those arenas, how to play in those arenas. I think that's the ultimate freedom because you're essentially combining control with chaos. And that leads to the ultimate satisfaction. Without discipline, you can fall into temptations with certain things, like for example, lust. Like I'll give an example. When I was 20 years old, and I think most, if not all, young men and sometimes women do this, but oftentimes we go a little bit crazy when it comes to sex and when it comes to hedonistic pleasures like partying, drinking, going on constant dates, hooking up, things like that. Or even online content, if you know what I'm talking about, like OnlyFans and all that stuff. Now, in my case, I basically got ruled by my lizard brain. So I would constantly be on dating apps all the time. I would constantly be trying to get laid. Like, it was just basically the biggest priority on my mind as a 20-year-old guy. And it led to the point where I was pretty much going out every single weekend. I was approaching all these different types of girls just so I can, practice my skills and get a hookup, essentially. And I know it's not bad to practice your skills and talk to women, but I was doing it completely for the wrong reasons. And it led to a point where I really self-sabotaged myself. Fast forward a few months later, after being in a really destructive pit and being in a void for all that time, I decided to completely reverse my life and change for the better. And as a result, I actually pushed away all those temptations and I completely stuck on a disciplined monk-like path. Now, this wasn't bad temporarily, but of course the pendulum swings the opposite way, and that's not good for balance either. And then for the first time, in a long time, I went to the Maldives recently for a few days just to relax, unwind, and embrace boredom and just do nothing. And it ended up coming to a point where I ended up encountering this young lady who was actually pretty cool, but it wasn't anything special. Like, it wasn't like a relationship ensued from it. It was just a quick one-night stand, and it was great because I wasn't controlled by my urges. It just happened naturally. And, I realized that after swinging the pendulum so much and being so disciplined and ignoring every sorts of pleasure, I actually gave myself the permission to have that pleasure and not feel guilty or be like, oh, this is not going to be good. This is going to throw me off. Women are going to throw me off. I'm falling back into temptation. Like, it was more of a clear-headed perspective. And that's when I realized that discipline is sort of freedom because, of course, I'm going to the Maldives. I'm there to have a fun time. Like, I'm traveling all the time. And I was there to just do nothing and mess around. But I also allowed myself to fall into temptation with constraints. And I think that was an amazing feeling. I mean, I went from constantly wrestling with lust to restricting myself and repressing myself, and also, really deep down, still struggling with it because of repression. But then when I allowed myself to just embrace it with limits, that's when it all became more clear focused. Now, that's just one example. That's just with lust. I mean, there's plenty more examples, I'm sure, for you. Like, you can have your own thing that's going on.